Hello MotoGP fans, welcome back to ZNGP Today. Gresini Racing's Marc Marquez sets a new lap record in Friday's Thailand GP practice, leading the timesheets and positioning himself as a serious contender. Despite his strong start, Marquez remains realistic, believing other Ducati riders will eventually close in. Ducati's Pecco Bagnaia had a mixed start to his Thailand GP weekend. Despite a challenging second practice session due to setup experiments, Bagnaia still regards this Friday as one of his strongest of 2024. As the MotoGP season approaches its climax, Jorge Martin inches closer to his dream of becoming world champion. Starting strong at the Thai GP on Friday, Martin speaks on his confidence, strategy, and lessons learned from last year's championship race. Jack Miller brings his trademark humor and style to Friday practice at the Thai Grand Prix, pushing himself and entertaining fans with daring moves. Despite some struggles on track, the Australian remains optimistic. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. Marc Marquez arrived in Thailand following a recent victory in Australia and has kept up his momentum by topping the timesheets in the initial practice session with a 1 minute and 29.165 seconds. The time put him just ahead of Jorge Martin by 0.110s, signaling Marquez's determination to stay competitive in the season's final stretch. However, despite his strong start, Marquez acknowledges that maintaining his lead throughout the weekend could prove challenging. Yeah, of course, happy because starting the weekend that way is always important. The pace is good. It's not the fastest one like in Australia. I think Martin is faster than us. Quote from Marc Marquez. Marquez praised Enea Bastianini's early pace, suggesting the Italian rider will be a formidable contender as the weekend unfolds. Though leading in practice, Marquez recognizes that his advantage may only be temporary. He noted that while he can set quick laps initially, riders like Bastianini often start slower but improve as the weekend progresses. This will happen, the others step by step are coming. For example, Bastianini is completely different than me. He starts struggling a lot and then he comes back. Let's see what we can do tomorrow, Marquez told by Crash. Marquez also mentioned his progress in practice, emphasizing that he's now entering weekends with a strong setup, something he struggled with earlier in the season. Despite his new record, Marquez is realistic about the difficulty of further improvement, especially with his current 1 minute and 29.1 seconds lap time. Looking ahead, Marquez shared specific areas he hopes to refine, particularly top speed on the straight sections after turns 1 and 3. A fresh engine will be introduced on Saturday to help offset the speed deficit he experiences on Burum's long straights. Where I'm losing more is that T1 and T2, those big straights are where we are losing a little bit more. But tomorrow we will put in a fresh engine and let's see if we can be a bit faster, Marquez concluded. Marquez aims to maintain his competitive pace and keep his rivals at bay, all while pushing his GP25 Ducati to its limits. With Marquez setting the bar high, anticipation builds for Saturday's practice and qualifying. Will his fresh engine and adjustments keep him ahead, or will other Ducati riders close the gap? Stay tuned for updates from the Thailand Grand Prix. Pecco Bagnaia faced difficulties adapting to setup changes during Friday's practice in Thailand, admitting that his bike wasn't performing as hoped. However, he still secured a spot in Q2, ending the session fourth on the timesheets behind teammate Enea Bastianini, Jorge Martin, and Marc Marquez. For me, yes, in terms of feeling when we finished with, because just had a little problem with one of the two bikes during the sessions. This afternoon, as soon as I had to try different setup, the bike wasn't working well. So I struggled a bit with the adaptation. Quote from Pecco Bagnaia. Bagnaia explained that he made a quick adjustment on his other bike, but this didn't fully solve the issue. Despite the setback, he was able to recover his pace by the end of the session. While several riders experienced braking issues at Buram on Friday, Bagnaia felt comfortable with his braking performance, acknowledging only minor struggles in certain corners. For me, it's not an issue. We just saw already the lap time in the data that I'm braking very hard. I'm just missing a bit in corner 4, quite a lot, and I didn't do a very good sector 3, corner 6, 7. Following some last-minute adjustments, Bagnaia reported that his bike's performance improved, allowing him to regain confidence for his time attack lap. This allowed him to end Friday with a positive outlook, even without a flawless lap. As Bagnaia enters the final stretch of the championship, he emphasizes that his approach hasn't changed, remaining focused on perfecting his setup for race day. For me, it's the same as the rest of the season. During the race weekend, I just want to work to be perfect for the race, Bagnaia concluded. Bagnaia insists that the pressure of the championship hasn't influenced his mindset, although he acknowledges that this could change as the season comes to a close. Despite a challenging practice session, Bagnaia's confidence and focus remain intact. With his consistent mindset, he hopes to stay competitive as the weekend progresses. Stay tuned for updates on Bagnaia and the rest of the field in Thailand. Last year, Jorge Martin's championship hopes were dashed by anxiety and mistakes in the final race. But the Martin of 2024 is a different rider, calm, focused, and determined. The Pramac rider quickly showed his speed on the opening day of the Thai GP, setting a personal best in his final lap of the session, despite a long pit stop that briefly shook his confidence. "I'm happy to be here. Obviously, I was a bit nervous, but the moment I go out on the track and see that I'm fast, all the ghosts disappear." Quote from Martin. Although Marc Marquez posted an even faster time, Martin remains unfazed. Setting a track record isn't his primary focus. His sights are set on the sprint and maximizing every point available. "I'm not thinking about that. My goal is not to set the track record. My goal is to do a good sprint and get the most out of it." Unlike last year, Martin is enjoying the championship journey and feels prepared to handle the stakes without obsession. He recognizes the high level he, Bagnaia, and Marquez are showing, especially at this decisive moment in the season. Martin knows that starting strong is crucial on Thailand's demanding track and has practiced both sprint and full race distances. He feels confident with his bike's speed and hints at testing a new engine to prepare for the season's final push. Track limits have posed a challenge in recent races, with Martin receiving early warnings. However, he doesn't expect this to be as big an issue in Thailand. Martin acknowledges the riskier styles of Marquez and Bastianini, particularly as they can afford to push the limits without major championship stakes. "When you fight with Ineos or Marc, it is complicated because they don't have much to lose and can risk falling. Ineos' move in Misano I think was beyond the limit. Marc's in Australia was aggressive, but he didn't touch me. He played his cards and had a fantastic race," Martin concluded by Motosan. With his focus on Bagnaia and the championship title, Jorge Martin heads into Saturday with a clear strategy. As he balances calculated risks and maximizing points, he aims to close the season on top. MotoGP title leader Jorge Martin showed off his skill with impressive stop pies in Friday's practice session, finishing second. But Jack Miller wasn't about to let Martin steal the show, responding with his own vertical stop pie that earned a thumbs up from Martin. "I saw Martin doing his, so I thought I had to hold my own. It'd be nice to beat him on the track and not in a stop pie competition." Quote from Miller. Though Miller had initially set a good pace, he finished in 13th, missing direct qualifying 2 access by just 0.155 seconds. Miller acknowledged the frustration of being held back by technical challenges, particularly with cornering through turns 5 to 8. Despite a strong start on medium tires, he couldn't piece together his final time attack. "The pace was good, but with the last one I just wasn't able to get it together. Far too many moments. I'm just losing the front at turn 5, which then continues through turn 6, turn 7, and then again at turn 8. Miller explained that he's focusing on adjusting his riding style to manage these challenges and remains hopeful for a solution overnight. As he nears the end of his factory KTM career, Miller feels he's making progress by working around these challenges and relying on skill over equipment, especially as teammates Brad Binder and Pedro Acosta are using the new chassis. With his well-known adaptability, Miller's focusing on body position to handle bumps and finish strong. The other two, Binder and Acosta, are on the new chassis and we're not. I'm working on my riding, really trying to focus on how I can move with my body and absorb the bumps," Miller added. While Miller's not experiencing the intense chatter from Motegi, a tiny vibration remains on turn 4, though he's learning to adapt. Earlier, he entertained the crowd with a rolling burnout after a practice start mishap on the straight, playfully extending it to thrill fans. As Jack Miller wraps up his last races with KTM, he continues to push hard and entertain with his signature daring moves, even in the face of challenges. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your MotoGP news update. See you in the next video.